Imagine something demonic telling you to go and alarm your husband. What's up, cousins? Yes, I am back with another story time. So just like always, let's not waste no time and let's get into it. Okay, so for this story time, we're gonna call her Brenda. We're gonna call her husband Mark. So Brenda says she is a Christian woman, the type that talked and prayed to God every day. So Brenda and Mark got married on September 25th, 1999. She was 19 and he was 21. Now, not too long after, they got their first place together on Stafford Road in Salisbury, North Carolina. Now, she did give me the address to mention because she said this address she will never forget. Now, things took a turn pretty quickly in that house. She said only after 2 months of living there, that's when things started happening. Now, Brenda and Mark could be out having the best time of their lives, just kicking it, having dinner, having lunch, any and everything they're doing when they're outside of the house. Now, as soon as they get back home, they are consistently bickering and arguing with each other for no apparent reason. She said every night when she go lie down in their bedroom, she always finds herself looking at the doorway. She said she just knew she was going to look up one day and see something standing there, but she never did. But she always felt like something was watching them from that doorway. So as time goes by, one particular night, she has to wake herself up to go use the bathroom. So as she's using the bathroom, she noticed there's a pair of scissors sitting on the bathroom counter, and she don't know why, doesn't even know why or how they even got there. As she looks at these scissors, she said the most angriest feeling and emotion came across her body. And she heard something say to her to go, her husband. That she was so scared and so afraid, all she can do was cry and scream. As she was screaming, her husband did wake up to come comfort her. As he's comforting her, he's trying to figure out what's wrong. So she started telling him all the things she's been experiencing for the past 2 months. After she told him about what she was experiencing, he then tells her the things that he was experiencing, and that also he felt like for the past 2 months that something was watching. They had never told each other this. Now, they did used to wonder why every time they come home, their emotion would just change to rage and anger, and as soon as they would leave the house, everything would go back to normal as far as their feelings and emotions towards each other. So some time passes until we get to this particular day. Mark wakes up, he gets ready for work, he's out the door. So now Brenda is at home alone. She's also getting ready for work until some things start happening. She has this feeling of being watched, and now she's scared. So she says she goes to the refrigerator to grab something out the fridge, and she heard something. She said not only did she hear it with her ears, she also heard it within her body, and it was screaming for her to get out of that house. Brenda did exactly just that. She ran out the house screaming and crying and just terrified because of what she just experienced. She said so finally her and Mark reached out to like some family members on both of their side of the families to try to figure out what's going on and what do they need to do. She said they didn't want to tell their pastor yet. However, they didn't get any resolution from their friends. That was going to be the next step. One of their friends did end up reaching back out to see if they can help them. Now, he did come over and he also brought a bottle of holy oil. So he did go through the house and he took the holy oil and put it on his fingers and was dabbing everything in the house and doing crosses in the doorways and just praying through the house as he's using this holy oil. Brenda said now from that day, it did feel like everything had just stopped because they didn't feel the feeling of being scared. They no longer had the angry emotions when they walked into the house. It seemed like everything just went back to normal. She said now the only reason they would get mad at each other or argue with each other if it was a valid reason for them to have an argument with one another. They was happy, everything went away. Until about 6 months down the line, she was pregnant. Now, unfortunately, at the beginning of her second trimester, she did go into labor, and ultimately she did end up losing their baby girl. Her name was Jasmine. She said when they got home from the hospital that night, something was not right. She said their friends and other people would just call it like her being emotional, but she know that was not the case. So they're both upset with each other and they're arguing with each other and she's just crying uncontrollably. So they ended up just sitting down on the kitchen floor right beside the refrigerator and she just could not stop crying. So as he's trying to comfort her, he starts crying as well. She said Mark's cries suddenly stopped and it looked like he was in a trance. And all he kept saying was, I could see her. He kept telling her that he can see their daughter, that she was about 3 years old. She had olive skin, she was chubby, and she had beautiful black curls. Now, she did say that was kind of the last paranormal or any type of weird stuff that they had going on in the house. That was their last encounter. Now, as a year go by, she did end up having her little boy. And at the beginning of 2023, she did have another little girl. Her baby girl name is Haven. Now, she said once they came home from the hospital and as Haven grew up, she did look identical to what her husband saw previously a few years ago. Although she said her husband is both pale, she don't know where she got the skin color from, but she was exactly how he described. She says she doesn't know what to think of it, and she do not believe that this was just a coincidence about what he saw and what their current daughter looks like. Now, she said as time goes by, the house still was on her mind, so she did try to do some research on the house to see if anyone was unalived there, or to find out what type of property was it buried on. What type of property was it built on? She said if anyone has any ideas on how to find out what happened in that house, she would love to know. Although she does not live there anymore, and her husband and her are not currently married at the time, but she does want to know if anyone can find out any research to see what exactly went on at that house or that property. The address is 130 Jeff Stafford Road, Trailer Park Lot 7 in Salisbury, North Carolina. So if we got any detectives out here to go look that up, let's go ahead and get that and see what the hell happened in that house. But y'all, that is the end of her story. Hope you guys enjoyed it. And again, y'all, be nice and positive in the comments. If you guys have any stories that you want to submit to me, please DM them to me, or you can submit it to the email that's in my bio. I strongly suggest for you to send it to the email. And when you're submitting your stories, y'all, and if you don't want to type everything, y'all, you can literally use voice to text. But anyway, you can DM me or send it to my email. Until the next story, enjoy this one.
All right, mama. Now, what you had said about we got Freemasons in our family?
I got 5 uncles, and all 5 of my uncles was, they were Freemasons. Uncle Bud, Uncle Billy, Uncle JC, Uncle Hector, and Uncle Hurrah.
They all like Freemasons, like real Freemasons?
Yeah, they try to get my dad to be to come into the organization, but my dad wouldn't do it. He said he don't believe in the Freemasons. My father always said the Freemasons was the devil. That's what he always said.
Demonic.
But 'cause my father was a minister. He was a preacher, and all my uncles. They would try to get him, to join,
Mm-hmm.
But my daddy he never would join. He said, no, they do certain things that shouldn't be done, and it's not good, not godly ways.
How
That's what they would say.
So how they be getting, like, how do they determine who gonna be in it and who not? Like, when have any of your uncles told you, like, how they approach them? Like, how do they approach them to join this organization?
I guess all my uncles, well, half of them, well, 3 of them, 2 of them, was married to my mom's sisters. Uncle Bud was married to my mom's baby sister. Uncle Edgar was married to my mom's other sister, next older sister. And Uncle Hurrah, he was married to my father's sister. And Uncle Billy, that's my mama's baby brother. Uncle Bud was married to my mama, like I said, baby sister. And so, like all these men, all my uncles, they knew a lot of men in my hometown. They was all like Freemasons too, cause it was a lot of black men in my town that was Freemasons, and some of their wives was like Eastern Stars.
What's an Eastern Star? What is that?
Eastern Star, it's kind of like the ladies. It's kind of like the Freemasons. They got their own large group too.
So it's a female version of
Freemason? Version of the Eastern Star of the Freemason. The ladies call themselves the Eastern Stars. And I mean, I really don't know what the ladies do in they group and stuff. But I'm quite sure, it's almost like the men's, because they have like little large meetings, like on Wednesdays and Fridays or whatever. But I'm quite sure they have to do a
ritual,
whatever you call it, to get in the group. So I really don't know what the ladies do in they congregation, what they do. But I know the men's, they have to do. Like I know my father told me, he said the reason why he didn't want to jump because they have to get like a what you call it,
a goat, an animal.
To get to get in the group.
Mm-hmm.
You have to,
Initiation. Okay.
He said they have to get a goat, take him out in the woods or wherever they're gonna take him out there.
It's always a goat.
They get you initiated. I mean, I really don't know what they do, but
what they doing with this goat?
I think they have to kill the goat, drink the blood. I don't know, whatever.
Drink the blood of a goat.
I know a goat is involved some kind of way.
Because I did some type of research, a little bit of research on it, and something called Bohemian Grove, and they be taking all the elite people in the world, like presidents and stuff like that, and they go out there and they do this type of ritual with an owl statue or something like that.
I know they got a secret word that they can never tell.
A secret word?
They got a code that they can never tell nobody about. You can never learn that code. Well, they can't tell you the code, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
Can nobody ever figure out what the code is? That's what my dad was saying. So my dad was saying, he said, it's not of God.
This is getting more, I'm not going to lie. Since we started this TikTok thing, I'm finding out more and more. As I'm recording and showing these people, I'm just as surprised as them because ain't no way we got Freemasons in our family.
My uncles.
That is crazy.
I don't have none of my aunties. They're not no Eastern Stars, but my uncles are Freemasons.
I'm gonna do some research on Eastern Stars.
Now I can say this about the Freemasons. They will help you. If a brother need food,
what if you get
paid? They'll do it.
What if you get in trouble by the police?
They'll help you. Yeah, they'll help you out.
Has any of your uncles been in some type of situation where they had help?
A couple of my uncles have been in a situation that they done got help. With the.
Can you name one? Can you name one situation that you know about?
Well, I don't want to name it, but.
What, did he get in trouble by the police?
He was, but not the police. But I don't want to.
Was it a murder?
I don't want to.
All right.
I be nigga on that, but all I can say is they got him out. They helped him.
Wow.
All the Freemasons, brothers that Freemasons, yeah.
So our uncle went to jail and the Freemasons got him out?
You still trying to make me
I'm the interviewer. You know I got it. Dang, that's crazy.
He got out. They got him out.
Wow. Freemasons and Eastern Stars?
Eastern Stars.
Eastern Stars.
What the women's, that was their large group. And I know a lot of ladies that it was in my hometown. They were Eastern Stars. Yep.
So this past weekend, my nieces and nephews had went over, and we started telling all our scary stories and just re-encountering things that we have experienced. So I'm gonna share some with y'all, and this one is about a little boy, and we feel is at the house, or a young child. So my niece, there was an instance where she was sitting on the sofa and she looked up and there was a boy on the other side of the sliding door. And at this time she was 5 years old, and she screams for my mom. And to my mom's surprise, there's nobody there. But my niece recalls what it looked like, what it was wearing. And on another occasion, my mom was chasing after my sister and she saw my sister run into her room. So my mom ran after her and my mom sees her go into her closet. So my mom pops the door open and there's nobody there. And here comes my sister down the hallway calling for her. So that spooked my mom out. Then my oldest sister saw the same thing. She saw a small child go into my mom's closet, which is the room I sleep in now, which is kind of terrifying. And then my oldest brother, he remembers how he would always hear a baby cry. At first, him and his wife thought
maybe it's a child outside, you know, which would be kind of hard because there was no small children around our court or at that time in the neighborhood. And they thought maybe it's a cat or something, but then it started happening every day around the same time. And so what really freaked him out is, I guess one time he was sleeping and he felt somebody pull the blankets off of him. And when he woke up, there was a child standing at the end of the bed just looking at him, which he screamed and was like terrified, right? So that happened to him. But the thing that scares me is that whenever I sleep with the closet door open, I seem to have nightmares. And the times that I've dreamed of my grandma, I feel like she comes or goes into the closet, which is so trippy to think. But I cannot sleep with that door open. Like, even when I'm laying there, it's actually 2 doors now. It opens 2 doors, like a French door. But I have to close them because I get like this horrible eerie feeling that somebody's watching me. And I feel so uncomfortable. I just can't do it. So that, I mean, I don't know if something happened in the closet or why there would be a small child lingering around. But I did take a selfie. I remember like 15 years ago when my daughter was a baby still. And my sister was there with me, and we were the only ones there at that time visiting my mom, but she ended up leaving. So I'm taking a selfie, and I'll attach the picture here. But if you look in my hair, it looks like there's a face in my hair. So I showed it to a friend that she's very into the spiritual world, and she believes that she sees a small girl in the picture, but she sees another face, which it says a woman, but I cannot see that face. And she believes that they died very tragically there. Not necessarily in my house, but on that property, because before houses were built there, it used to be a walnut orchard. I asked her to like disclose like any more information, but she said that she would keep it as is, that those spirits were not there to harm me. They were there because they felt like they still belonged there, and to just basically let them be.
We listen, we don't get scared, and we don't judge. Let me tell you guys a story time of this girl who woke up one day and was told she needed to go to Wasa, only for her to go to that damn initiation school and come back, and her life just went downhill and started spiraling. She lost everything. So how I came to know this girl was, I have an uncle who has one child, a girl child. Whenever that girl would come visit her dad, I would go and visit as well, because baby girl would say she gets bored and she doesn't have friends in that area, so I would go there. Front opposite my uncle's house, there is a lady. There's a Sangoma, obviously, and the girl was fostering there. She was there for initiation, okay, to become a Sangoma, a traditional healer, if you might. So one time, baby girl is sitting like outside of the house, inside the yard, not outside the gate. And me and my cousin were sitting like inside the yard as well. And I saw her and I was like, baby girl looks bored. Maybe we should go chill with her, whatever. And my cousin was like, yeah, sure, let's go, right? Because she looked like she was in the same age group as us. You know, she was like older than us for like 2 years, whatever. So we go to the girl and we start talking to her. We could become friends, you know, we're clicking, we're having fun. You know, from that point on, we used to go visit her when she wasn't doing her work or whatever, her training, basically, yeah. We used to go visit her or whatever. And one time she confided in the both of us, and she was like, you know, she's not happy to be here. Like, you know, she's doing her thing, and, you know, she is a seer. She can see things. She can help heal people, because at this point she was close to being finished with her training, and she was like, she's not happy. Like, she's been here for like almost a year now, and she's just tired, you know. And we're like, why? And she's like, bro, like, I had never in my life, never had a calling or had anywhere be told that I need to go to initiation school, maybe one day, blah, like, never. It just happened one day. And she's like, she's starting to think that the grandma that's initiating her is a witch, because she's like, sometimes now she's like, she's never been to initiation school, but the grandma does odd things, man. She does weird things, and you just look at her and be like, hey, what are you doing? Everyone like, what does she do? She's like, first of all, this lady has a whole snake, right? So she's like, the snake has a name and a surname, right? The snake has a name, and the surname is from someone that lives in that neighborhood. She got to learn that when she was going to the shop. And mind you, the surname of these people's
surname that she's using are struggling real bad. So she's like, no man, like, you can just tell that something is off with this lady, but she can't pinpoint it. Also, like, she's very close to a training, so she doesn't want to say anything because she'll say something and get herself in trouble. So she's like, there was a time where a little ceremony was held for her and a goat was slaughtered for her. But surprisingly, the goat had a name, and the name of the goat was her name. And she's like, they eventually started, like, they spoke to the goat, and then after that, they started speaking a language that she didn't understand. And she's like, it was not only this lady, like, there was another lady as well. And it was like the three of them, but they said that it was a ceremony, and she didn't say anything. I'm thinking, yeah, all of these things are happening. You're questioning yourself, and you're not telling your family members. But hey, I've never tossed that before, so I can't really throw in my opinion. And then after some time, we were talking about something else, and she tells us how smart she is. Babe, like, she is rooted for greatness. Apparently, at that time, she had a scholarship to go study in Canada. And I don't remember what she was studying, but she was studying something in engineering. And I was like, girl, okay. So she was like, she can't wait to finish here so that she can go back and fix her things, because the people did say that they're going to wait for her or whatever. Because, when people are smart and there's greatness over you, and God says, the people were literally willing to wait for her a whole year so that she can come and study so that she can work for a particular company. What? So we had her number, right? And towards the end of December, it was time for her to leave, right? She was done training. Now she is a Sangoma, but she needs to go back home and do the things or whatever. Sharp. I think we waited like a whole month to hear from her, thinking like she's in Canada, because this one time, we didn't actually wait a month. We waited until it was term 1 holidays. School starts in January, February, March is the holidays. So March we are together, me and my cousin. We video call her thinking baby girl is in Canada somewhere. We call her phone, nobody answers. We call it a second time, nobody answers. We call it a third time. We were not calling at the same time. Like, we called it now, like, maybe she's busy, right? And then we call again some other time, maybe she's busy. We call a third time, I think it was like in the evening, and she answers. When she answers, man, it's her. But she's lost a lot of weight. She's darker now in complexion. She's giving dirty, like she's giving something is wrong. She gets, and she's answered, she's like, hi guys, and we're like, Aiba, where are you? She's like, oh, I'm at home, blah blah blah. And she's like, and we're like, oh, home journey. And she's like, no, don't worry guys, I'll call you guys later and I'll explain the situation. Shapo later comes, I think it was 9 p.m. at this time. She calls us, sad guys, and she's like, what I'm going to tell you guys, you might not believe, like, it's crazy, right? Sharp. So she tells us, okay, when I went out of initiation school, guys, I basically don't know what happened. I went back to the scholarship people, I emailed them, sent them messages, nothing. They did not respond to me whatsoever. She's like, okay, sharp. She let it go. She applied for universities. Universities were rejecting her. Even though her marks agreed for her to go to university, she doesn't know what happened. She decided to apply for a job, and she's like, within a month, she lost that job because she was accused of stealing. Mind you, she's like, somebody else was accusing her, but you know what? She was like, she doesn't know how certain things are happening in her life. Like, everything is just going downhill. She's like, people are turning their backs on her. She has lost friends. She's like, her family members think that she's a witch. Her and her mom, like, do get along, but it's not really, like, good or whatever. And she doesn't even stay with her mom anymore because her mom moved out of the house. And I was just like, damn. So she's like, yeah, like, her life is going into the pits of hell. And mind you, she says she goes to traditional healer after traditional healer. Nobody's able to help her. She's gone to churches. These churches scam her. And then, like, she's unable to like fend for herself because, she's lost a lot of money because of this or whatever. And then she's like, one time she went to this one healer, right? And this healer was like, listen, I'm not going to be able to solve your problem because you're dealing with a witch pro max. Obviously, he or she didn't say it like that, but she was like, I can only tell you what's happening in your life. I can't help you, but I can tell you the problem, right? Shapo, she's like, this person told her that the person that you went for initiation is the one that's doing all of these things. You were never meant to go to initiation school. This was her way of taking your luck. She's like, you may not know the person that you're initiating. She's like, you may not know who your initiation school teacher was, but she knows you. She and your her granddaughter and you were in the same class. So this person gives her a surname and it's like, remember this particular person with this surname? That is their grandmother from the mom's side. That's why you would never know. And you know, the girl tells us that like me and her were always like this when it comes to being smart. Like we were always like this, like in the top 10. Like sometimes she was number one, I was number one. Sometimes, you know, she thought it was competition. The scholarship came and she didn't get it, and that's when she was like, no babe, I need to destroy you. Like you can't beat me. You know, in high school we were used to go head and head, and now no, you know. She's like, that lady basically took all your blessings. When you go to initiation school and you initiate, there are things that you do that you must know that your Kobela has you like this. And if she wants to destroy you, she can do so as she pleases. She's like, people say, your family members say that you're a witch because she's using your face. She is stirring the pot at your house. So basically, she'll send something to one of your cousins. When they get to a certain healer or whoever they go with, your face is going to show up because they're using you. She's like, this person wants to destroy. They want to make sure that you just fall and never get up. The reason why her and her mom are fighting is because her mom is the only person that can help her. So if they fight, guess what? You're not getting any help. Guys, I was traumatized. I was like, what? She's like, everything has been going downhill ever since. When I tell you, after that call, we spoke for some time, and when I've never spoken to her ever since. I seen her at the robots not so long ago, and she didn't even recognize me because I called her by name, thinking like, I was like, hey, and then I greeted her and she just looked at me, and I could see that this person is out of it. This person is mentally disabled. Like, they are crazy at this point. I'm just trying to put that into, not that mentally disabled people are crazy, but guys, be careful. I always tell you guys to be careful of these sangomas. Not all of them are bad, but some of them.
Let's read some more scary stories from the internet. I was driving across country with my mom and sister. I was 16, my sister 20, and my mom in her 50s. It was late, but we were all well rested still and alert. We were driving along an interstate and needed gas, and they needed to pee, so we stopped at the only rest stop in 200 miles. There was a van full of teenagers on some road trip, and a small gray compact car, like a Honda Accord or some shit, parked at the pump in front of us. Two men, about 17 to 20, were standing outside the Honda in hoodies, statue fucking still. The teenagers were to our left. When we got there, everything felt wrong. There was a deep and unsettling feeling about the place, and we'd not felt that way at any other rest stop. We'd been on the road for days and seen so many rest stops at night and had never been afraid until then. My mom and sister went inside and I stayed in the car. I heard the teenagers say they were creeped out and couldn't get the pump to work, and they left in a hurry. I was mostly watching the car in front and the two men who had still not moved at all, not an inch. They weren't talking, they weren't on phones. There was no light anywhere but the dim overhead lights on the gas station awning. They were just standing there, still as stone. My sister and mom came running back out to the car, and when they got in, the two men slowly turned to look at us while not moving or pivoting the rest of their bodies, and I swear to God, we all saw the same thing. They had eyes that were pitch dark and empty, truly empty. Not black, not reflecting any light at all, just a void. We booked it. We have not traveled in excess of 100 miles per hour before or since, but that day it was warranted. We drove until we were in the next city before we got out of the car again. And you know the worst thing about it? Not the eyes, not the stillness, not that horrible feeling, not the weirdo in the gas station who kept telling my mom and sister, "My mama will like you," over and over while mopping the same spot on the floor with a dry mop and an empty bucket. It was the fact that we couldn't find the place on any map. We knew exactly which spot on the interstate to look, and we couldn't find it on Google Maps or any map we had. We'd traveled on that interstate since, and there was no rest stop. I used to work at this radio station in New Mexico that was listed as one of the most haunted places in the state. It was an old house that had been converted into offices. The story goes that the last owner of the house made a living by carving gravestones in the basement, and that he'd passed away while working on one. When the new owners of the building took over, they left the stone where it was. That was a mistake. I heard stories from people who worked there back then. Shadowy figures seen in unoccupied rooms, lights going on and off for no apparent reason. Supposedly, all the activity died down when the stone was moved out of there. Well, most of it. When I worked there, the outline of the stone was still there on the basement floor, and as I worked the night shift, I saw some weird shit. For starters, the door to the basement was in the break room, and in order to get to the vending machine, you had to walk by the door. Most of the time it was no big deal, but on occasion I would start to walk past and this terrifying feeling came over me. The hair on my neck and arms stood up. Then one night, I went out into the offices and turned off all the lights. You know, save electricity and whatnot. I went back into the studio to keep doing my show. A little while earlier, I walked out and saw that all the lights were back on. There was nobody else in the building. There was also a couple of times when I watched CD players open and close on their own, which brings me to the freakiest story told to me by the overnight guy. He was doing his show, playing the new Bon Jovi song off the album, and the lights flickered for a moment. When he looked down at the display on the CD player, it was showing a different track is playing, though the song he'd been playing kept going. We pulled out the album and looked for the track that was indicated as playing. It was a song called I'll Sleep When I'm Dead. Years ago, 2 friends and I were camping in the fall in a small tent, staggered with 2 of our heads on one side and one on the other. It was a silent night and still night with fog developing in the moist Pacific Northwest woods. What sounds like a muffled voice on a cell phone starts coming out from the center of the tent between all of our heads. I heard someone keep asking, "Hello? Can you hear me? Hello?" My friend asks, "Are you hearing that?" At once, we all sit up and start shuffling around in the tent looking for the phone. There is no phone in the tent. I looked to my friend on the other side of the tent and asked what they heard. They said it sounded like someone saying, "Hello, can you hear me?" We all agreed that this is what we heard. The next morning, we find all of our cell phones sitting in the car, and there's no cell reception at the campground. Still sends shivers up my spine. When I was in 5th grade, I once forgot to put my school uniform in the laundry basket, so the next day when I needed it for school, it was dirty. I went to have breakfast in my pajamas while I was thinking how to tell my mom I didn't have a clean uniform. When I came back to my room, there was a woman I have never seen before, in her 40s, brown dress, dark hair, ironing my uniform. I blinked and she was gone. I would have assumed I hallucinated the whole thing, but my uniform was there, clean, dried, and ironed, and ready for me to use. I stayed at my grandmother's house that my father spent a large amount of time in as a kid. My father drove us there in one go and was understandably tired after a 17-hour drive. We all started to lay down and my father checked in on us before going to bed himself. As he was talking, he stopped himself and told us to cover a large mirror, or you will have nightmares, he said. Now, nightmares from a mirror of all things sounded like a little fun to me, but my brothers, who were sleeping in the same room, asked me to cover it. I did. I asked my dad about it before he left, and he said ghosts use it as an entryway. A week later, I brought it up with my grandmother, and she scoffed, saying, "Oh, this house ain't haunted." I agreed, but told her that the reason I brought it up was because my dad told me to cover a mirror. My grandmother then changed her expression and said, "Oh, the mirror?" Apparently that mirror came from her grandmother. She worked as a nurse and took in those who were going to die but could not pay for their care on their last days. So she made her home into a new hospice. Those who stayed in the room with the mirror saw things. A lovely old lady saw and heard a young lady come into her room and played a harp. She was thankful for the lovely songs, but no person was known, nor was a harp owned or heard elsewhere. A young boy found an older boy who played games with him and really knew his games. Lastly, a terrible woman who refused to use the bathroom and pooped in a cooking pot and then hid it under her bed said she saw the devil in the mirror that spat fire at her. I also got stories from my mother seeing the same lady who played the harp, and my grandfather said he saw the devil. My grandfather described it as a red man with horns that was too tall for the room. It stared down at him and simply asks, "Why are you here?" I kept that mirror covered. Okay, so I actually have my own ghost story, and I'm gonna tell it to y'all while I eat a popsicle. I'm not one of those people who can make like story time videos while I'm like doing my makeup or doing my skincare. It's really hard for me to like do something and talk at the same time. So we're gonna eat a popsicle. Have y'all had these like trolley gummy popsicles? They're actually so freaking good. And they're really funny too. Like, look at that. They're like really wiggly. Anyway, Okay, so I live in Texas now, but I'm originally from Arizona. And I grew up with my grandparents. So this happened to me whenever I think I was like a freshman in high school. We had a big house and we lived in New River. A lot of y'all might not know what that is, but it's like a town north of Phoenix. And we lived like in the mountains. We lived like in the desert, in the middle of freaking nowhere. We didn't even have street lights, like middle of nowhere. We had horses, so it's like more country out there where I lived. One night, I woke up in the middle of the night and all of my lights were off. So it was pretty dark in there. The only light I had coming into my room was from the moon, like the moon coming through my blinds. So there was like a little bit of light in my room, but not much. And so like I woke up and I sat up for some reason, which is already really weird. I feel like that's just not something I normally do. So I sat up and I looked in the corner of my room, which was by like my bedroom door. And I thought I saw one of our dogs. We had a Yorkie named Peanut at the time. And I thought I saw her sitting in the corner. So I was like tapping on my bed saying, "Come here, Peanut," you know, trying to get her to come on my bed. And then we could go to sleep. But then my eyes like started to adjust. And then there was nothing there at all. So I was like, okay. Anyway, so I went back to bed. And then probably like a few months later, I didn't think anything of that, by the way, but like a few months later, I woke up in the middle of the night again, and I'm laying in bed like this, and to the right of my bed, I had like closet sliding doors, and they were big mirrors. And on that side of the bed too, I had like a light switch. And so I woke up and I looked over to that side of my room for some reason. And I swear on everything, I'm not lying to you, I saw a little boy standing there with his arms crossed, clear as day. He was standing there staring at me with his arms crossed, and he was wearing a red baseball hat, which is very relevant to this story. So I see that and I freak out. And so I immediately like slap my light switch. Like I remember like slapping the shit out of my light switch to turn my lights on. And then I slept with my lights on that night. Okay, so like maybe like a year goes by. My mom ends up moving in with us. She was an alcoholic and she got sober, needed somewhere to stay. So my mom moved in with us. And my mom was upstairs vacuuming. And I was talking to her. So I was kind of like yelling because I was talking over the vacuum. But we were just having a full-blown conversation. And my mom is really into paranormal stuff. And I don't know why, like what we were talking about, but I was telling her about this little boy that I saw in my room, and then all of a sudden the vacuum shuts off, and then I think nothing of it. I'm like, okay, let me just like go plug it back in for you, and then we'll continue our conversation. So I walk over to the plug, and there is a bunch of like slack on the cord still, like it's like curled up. So it's not like she went too far with the vacuum and like ripped the cord out of the wall. It's like it just like blew out of the wall. So I did think that was kind of weird, and my mom did too. And so she told me to take my digital camera, because I'm a millennial, so this was in the 2000s, take my digital camera and go into my room, because that's where I saw the little boy, and take pictures with all the lights off. So I took pictures of my room, and there was orbs everywhere. I obviously still don't have those pictures, but just believe me, okay? Okay, so now to the last part of the story. So more time goes by. I'm probably like 16 at this time. And I had a friend come over. She was my neighbor. She lived down the road from me. She came over to sleep over. And we had a big house. And we had a huge backyard. We had a guest house. So let's just say as a teenager, it was really easy to get away with stuff. Okay? So one night, her and I decide to take some magic mushrooms while my family was asleep. I knew nobody was going to wake up while we did that, so we did it, okay? And so whenever it started to take effect, we were in my backyard. It's really dark out there, but of course you can still see a little bit like from the moonlight. And we had like this wall with our back gate on it. It was like a stucco wall, you know, Arizona. And it was like a gate that led to the backyard, and her and I were like feeling it, you know, and we both were like seeing the same thing, because you know that happens sometimes. And we both like saw like a person on each side of the gate sitting on the wall, and we thought they were like vampires, and we could tell they were like communicating with each other, but we couldn't understand what they were saying. So anyway, that happened, and then we like turned around, and we had patio furniture, a chair, like 4 chairs and a table. And she's like, oh my gosh, like I see something like sitting at the table. And I'm like laughing, like, ha ha ha, like, what do you see? She says she sees a little boy wearing a red hat. I immediately lose my shit, and I just start telling her the story. I had never told anybody this story in my entire life except for my mom. Never, ever, ever told my friend. So I freaked out, told her the story. We both got scared. We busted into the back door. I don't know how anybody didn't hear us, but I guess my family was just really hard sleepers. And for the rest of the night, we continued to have a horrible adventure on those magic mushies because we were really scared. I never saw him again, and I've never even had an experience after that. I don't think I've ever had like another paranormal experience. That's the only thing. But I never saw him again. I did, however, one time go into my room and talk to him. Maybe that was a good thing. Maybe that wasn't a good thing. But I mean, he was a kid and I felt bad. So I was just like, hey, you're cool. I'm cool. You're totally safe here. You know, like, whatever. You can hang out if you're not going to do anything scary, but like you're safe here and you're okay. And never heard from him again. But that is my true paranormal story.
I told a story just before this one coming from a search and rescue officer named Rob, and he has quite a few stories that he's told, and as promised, I've got another one for you. Feel free to go back and check the first one out. It's the story right before this one, but they don't have anything to do with each other, so it doesn't matter what order you watch them in. So for this story, Rob says that he was teamed up with another search and rescue officer as there were bears reported in the area. They were searching for a man who hadn't come home from a climbing trip that he'd been on. Rob said that him and the other officer had to do some serious climbing to get to the area where the missing man should have been. They eventually did find him, and he was trapped in a small crevasse with a broken leg. Rob says it was not pleasant. This guy had been stuck there for over 2 days, and his leg was severely infected. He said they were able to get him up in the chopper, but this guy was completely inconsolable. So this man says that he'd been doing great on the climb, but once he got to the top, he saw a man standing up there. He said he saw the man from the back, and he didn't have any climbing equipment with him, and he was wearing a parka and ski pants. He said that he walked up to the man, and when the man turned around, he had no face. He said that where a face should have been was just blank. And this freaked that guy out so much that he hightailed it out of there, and he started frantically climbing back down the mountain to get away from this guy, and that's why he fell. And if that experience isn't horrifying enough, once this guy is now stuck and wedged with a broken leg, he said all night long he could hear that thing. He said this thing would scurry up and down right past where this poor guy was wedged, and it kept emitting these horrible, muffled screams. This man was so thankful to make it out of there and has no idea what the heck that thing could have been. So the next story that he tells involves a young woman that got separated from her hiking group. He said they were out really late looking for her until the dogs finally picked up her scent. They found this woman curled up underneath a rotted log, and her shoes and her backpack were missing. He said this woman was clearly in shock, but they were able to finally get her up and have her walk with them back to their base. On their way back, she kept turning around and looking over her shoulder and kept asking them, why is that big man with black eyes following us? Rob said they couldn't see anyone, so they were just writing it off as some symptom of her being in shock. But the closer they got to the base, the more agitated she got. She kept saying to Rob, please make him stop making faces at me. At one point, she turned around and yelled into the forest for him to leave her alone. She even would scream, you're not going to take me and I'm not going to give them to you. As in, not going to let them take the rescuers. So they finally get her to just keep moving, and then all of a sudden, all of them start to hear these really crazy sounds coming from all around them, every direction. Rob describes it as sounding kind of like coughing, but more rhythmic and deeper. He said it was almost insect-like, and he doesn't really know how else to describe it. Then Rob says that once they got within sight of this base, she turns around and looks at him, and her eyes are huge. He said bigger than he can imagine anyone could make their eyes. And he says to tell you to speed up. He doesn't like looking at the scar on your neck. Rob says he does have a small scar at the base of his neck, but it was covered by his collar. He has no idea how she would know it was there. Rob said as soon as she got done saying that to him, he heard that weird insect-like coughing sound right inside his ear, and it just made him about jump out of his skin. He said he tried to keep it cool and calm and collected, but he rushed her back to that base, and he has never been so happy to get out of the woods. What do you guys think about those two stories? Yeah, no thank you. There are a couple other stories from Rob, and I'll definitely be posting those, so stay tuned. If you have a creepy story of your own, I would love to hear it. Please submit it to the email in my bio. Wait until you hear some of the stories from this search and rescue officer from the United States Forest Service. He tells a few different stories, so I'll make a few posts about it. For privacy purposes, we're going to just call this guy Rob. And Rob says that he's been working as an SAR officer for a few years now, and he has seen some really interesting and freaky things. Rob says that he has a pretty good track record for finding missing people. He says oftentimes somebody just veers off the trail or falls down a small cliff and just can't seem to find their way back. The majority of them remember the old stay where you are advice and don't ever wander too far, and are usually found pretty quickly. But he says he's got 2 cases where that didn't happen, and it bothers him a lot. He said he even uses that to motivate him to push himself even harder when looking for new cases of missing people. The first case involves a little boy who was out berry picking with his family. It was him, his sister, and his parents, and he and his sister were kind of sticking close together, and they went missing about the same time. The parents lost sight of them for like a few seconds, and in that amount of time, they both wandered off. So immediately, when the parents couldn't find them, they called Rob and his team, and they went out to search the area. Get this, they find the daughter relatively quickly, and when they ask her where her brother was, she just matter-of-factly says, he was taken away by the bear man. And then it just gets more disturbing. I guess this bear man gave her some berries, told her to be quiet, and then said he wanted to play with her brother for a little while. The last time she said she saw him, he was riding on the shoulders of this thing, and he seemed to be calm. Of course, their first thought was abduction, and they looked, but they never found any trace of any other human being in that area. And the little girl insists that this was not a normal human being man, that he was very tall and fully covered in hair, like a bear. She also reported that he had a weird face. Rob said that they searched that area for weeks. It was one of the longest calls he's ever been on, and they never found a single trace of that poor child. The next story that Rob tells that really bothered him was of a young woman who was out hiking with her mom and her grandpa. According to the mother, the daughter was very curious and she wanted to climb up a tree to kind of get a better, broader view of the area. So mom and grandpa are standing down at the base of the tree, and the daughter climbs up, and after a while they don't hear or see her. So they start calling her name, and this girl never came down from the tree. Apparently they stood there calling up to and looking up into the tree for this person for a while before they finally called for help. Rob says, again, they have searched everywhere and they never found a trace of her. He says, I have no idea where she could have gone, and mother and grandfather never saw her come down. He mentions that sometimes in some of his searches that another really creepy thing that happens is they'll bring their canine units out to come and sort of sniff out where a person might be. He says that so many times these dogs would lead him to straight up a cliff. He says he's not talking hills or rock faces. He's talking about tall, straight cliffs, like with nowhere to even put your hands or feet to grab on and climb up. He says in a lot of those cases, those people that are missing are actually found on the other side of the cliff, almost like they scaled up that impossible side and the dogs are sniffing it out there. He says there's got to be some kind of explanation, but he hasn't found one yet. Let me know your thoughts on those two cases. It's really sad. Definitely keep a lookout for more stories I'm going to share from Rob. And if you haven't already, follow for more creepy story time.
Shocking? Not one bit, but terrifying 1,000,000%. I have not yet finished the documentary that just came out, but since the conversations are happening again about what really happened to Tupac, here's what I think you should know about his final hours and the years leading up to them. Not a girl, just a lawyer. Everything that I'm saying is public information you can find on the internet. Thanks. November 30th in New York City, 1994, Tupac Shakur shows up to Quad Recording Studios in Times Square. He's there because he got a call from a music manager to go record a verse for a song. He agreed to do it. He shows up. When he walks into the building just after midnight, he hears familiar voices. It's New York City at a recording studio where artists like him frequently visit. Not surprising that he would know people there. So he's thinking, okay, cool, let me walk in, say hello, see who's there. But before he can, he is ambushed by 3 men in the lobby. It felt like a robbery initially because the men had weapons and they were demanding money and all and any of Tupac's jewelry that he was wearing, and they did rob him of $40,000 worth of jewelry, but it was too late. By the time that Tupac managed to get into the elevator to hide, he was already hurt. He takes the elevator up. The elevator arrives on the 8th floor. The doors open. A very distressed Tupac Shakur stumbles out. Not only is he in pain, he remembers feeling like his entire body was numb, but he felt weird. He was also in shock and also scared. On the 8th floor, he sees a big group of men. They're also there, presumably working on music. In said group are Biggie and Diddy. As soon as one of the guys lays eyes on Tupac, they yell at him to sit down. He's bleeding from everywhere. He has 5 total wounds to his body, including 2 to his head, and yet ignoring what he's feeling, or I guess rather not feeling, because his body is in such shock, past whatever pain that he's in, he thinks it's weird that no one in that room will make eye contact with him. And the people in there are his friends, longtime friends, people that he's known for a long time, yet seemingly no one seems to acknowledge him, and that's when it clicks to him that what just happened in the lobby was not just a robbery. It was a planned, orchestrated ambush against Tupac, and he thinks some of the people in the building, some of the people that he is now in the same room as, had something or everything to do with it. There was already present growing tension within California, but after that night, the relationship between the East Coast rappers and the West Coast rappers was never going to be the same again. For context, Bad Boy Entertainment, extremely successful on the East Coast. Sean Combs owns Bad Boy. Death Row Records, extremely successful on the West Coast. Suge Knight was the CEO of Death Row. Tupac was one of the greatest and most influential rappers of all time, and arguably the biggest artist that Death Row Records had. Biggie, aka the Notorious B.I.G., was arguably the biggest artist that Bad Boy Entertainment had. So Tupac to Death Row Record was the equivalent to Biggie to Bad Boy Entertainment. And West Coast rappers plus the East Coast rappers in the 1990s equals enemies. Less than 2 years after what happened to Tupac in that lobby, he would be killed. On September 7th of 1996, Tupac was in Vegas to attend the Mike Tyson fight, the boxing match. Mike Tyson was a close friend of his. That took place at the MGM Grand Arena in Vegas, and Tupac actually didn't even really want to go to Vegas in the first place because he had other stuff that he would have rather dealt with, but he went, and Suge Knight was also there with him. After the fight, Tupac got in an altercation with someone, Orlando Anderson, at the hotel. Orlando Anderson had allegedly attempted to rob one of Tupac's friends a few weeks earlier. It's also been rumored that Anderson attempted to rob that guy because Sean Diddy Combs told him to do so. Anderson was buddy-buddy with Diddy. But that night at the hotel, the one guy who was almost robbed saw Anderson, told Tupac that he was there, that he was the person who tried to rob him, and Tupac rushed over to confront him. It was a whole thing. MGM security guards had to break it up, and Tupac went back to his hotel room eventually. At the hotel room, he told his girlfriend at the time about the fight that he had just gotten involved with, and then he left. He changed clothes, left the hotel, got in a car, a BMW sedan with Suge Knight. He was driving. Tupac was sitting in the passenger seat. They were heading to a charity concert at a club where Tupac was supposed to perform that night. Tupac's bodyguard, Frank Alexander, would later say that he wanted to be in the car with Tupac, right? That makes sense because he is his bodyguard, but allegedly Tupac asked him to drive in a different car, not only to drive some of his friends, some of the other guys, but also in case they wanted to have separate cars at the end of the night when everyone went back to the hotel. other friends of theirs, members of Death Row Records, as well as cars full of girls and women driving closely behind them, all driving to the same club. They were driving, and around 11 p.m., Suge and Tupac get pulled over for playing the music too loud in their cars, as well as for failing to have a license plate, but then they were let go without getting a ticket. At 11:10 p.m., while stopped at a red light, Tupac had his window down and he spoke to some people in the car that was parked next to him. It was a group of women, and he said something to invite them to come see him perform at the club. Within the next 5 minutes after that, so at around 11:15 p.m., a white Cadillac pulled up right next to Tupac's car, rolled down the window when someone pulled out a weapon from inside the car and fired at the BMW. Tupac got injured in 4 separate places, twice in the chest, once in the leg, and once on his arms. Suge was also injured, but nowhere near as bad. He was able to manage and continue driving even though they now had a flat tire. Police officers pulled them over again, saw that they were hurt, called paramedics to the scene, and then both Suge and Tupac were rushed to the hospital. Suge was okay. He was released the following day, but he did not talk to anyone until 3 days later. When he did talk, he told authorities that he, quote, heard something but saw nothing, end quote. Tupac, however, was not doing well. His injuries were severe. He was placed on life support and then in a medically induced coma. There was not a time in which he was alone in there. He always had either a friend or a family member right next to him on his bedside. Tupac Shakur passed away 6 days later at the hospital on September 13th of 1996 at 4:03 p.m. He was only 25 years old. Following his passing, the investigation into who did it pretty much felt like it was going nowhere because no one wanted to cooperate with the police. Whether it was people that were there the night of or not, no one was talking. After it happened, Suge Knight was asked if he saw something or heard something, if he would come forward, to which he responded to by saying, quote, absolutely not. No one was talking, which only made it easier for speculation to grow because there were no answers. People thought that maybe it had something to do with Orlando Anderson, the guy that Tupac got in an altercation with at the hotel right before he got in the car, because Tupac came on to him at the hotel. People speculated and wondered if Anderson could have been mad enough to then go after him for a final time once he was in the car. People wondered if Biggie Smalls could have had something to do with it because Biggie was on the East Coast, Tupac was on the West Coast. They were rivals, and Tupac had pretty much been dissing Biggie in his songs for years. They were friends at one point, but when they became enemies, that was public knowledge. Tupac also did have reason to believe that Biggie did have something to do with the 1994 incident. He had said to people around him that he had been told that Biggie and or Diddy as well, but Biggie was the person behind what happened in Quad Recording Studios in New York City in 1994. Others considered the possibility that Suge Knight himself could have planned Tupac's death because allegedly shortly before, Tupac had been considering leaving Death Row Records. When he first got signed with Death Row Records, Tupac felt like he owed Suge Knight because he had actually bailed him out of prison. Tupac had been arrested and convicted for SA allegations in 1995, but Suge Knight, then CEO of Death Row Records, negotiated a deal. He offered to pay for Tupac's bail, which was over $1 million if Tupac agreed to sign with Death Row Records. He agreed, they paid his bail, Tupac was released and began working under Death Row, where his career skyrocketed. But the people closest to him, for example his mom, said that he had been considering leaving Death Row because he felt like they just wanted too much control over him and he didn't think that they were giving him enough of a fair cut of the money that he was making. Needless to say, a lot of speculation on who would have had the motivation to kill him. A lot of tension between the rap world, so much so that within a 10-day period there were so many fights, altercations, and incidents that led to 3 other rappers losing their lives and 22 others being arrested. Yet nothing was connected to Tupac's death. September of 2018, Eminem releases a diss track aimed at Machine Gun Kelly, having nothing to do with Tupac, but in said song, the lyrics read, quote, Kels, the day you put out a hit, the day that Diddy admits that he put out a hit that got Pac killed, end quote. At the end of the song, he says, I'm just playing Diddy, you know I love you. You could look at that and say, oh, Eminem just flat out told the world that Diddy was responsible for Tupac's death. However, Eminem has said that that was meant to be a joke, basically saying like, MGK, you're never gonna have a hit song unless Diddy confesses to something that he never would. Does that make sense? At the time, Diddy was not in the spotlight as much as he is now, so that kind of went over a lot of people's heads, but nevertheless, we're gonna come back to Eminem, don't worry. September 2023, 60-year-old Dwayne Davis, aka Keefe D, is arrested in connection to Tupac's murder. Keefe D also happens to be Orlando Anderson's uncle. Remember the guy that Tupac got in a fight at the hotel before he got in the car. Keefe D is arrested, law enforcement stating, saying, quote, Juwan Davis was the caller for this group of individuals that committed this crime. He orchestrated the plan that was carried out, end quote. Following his arrest, he starts talking one of the most shocking, alarming things that he says being that, yes, he was involved in Tupac's murder, but it wasn't his idea. He says a certain someone was actually the person who planned out and orchestrated and hired others to kill Tupac. That person, Sean Diddy Combs. Keefe D claims, his words not mine, he says that Diddy paid them, him and his friends, I guess, associates, I don't know, paid them $1 million to get rid of Tupac. He says that even before he paid them and actually offered them to go through with it, Diddy allegedly made it clear to not only him, but a group of guys, like 40 other guys, that he would, quote, give them anything for them dudes' heads, end quote, referring to Suge and Tupac. Keefe D tells authorities that Diddy brought it up to them again, getting rid of Tupac. And at first, Keefe D was laughing. He thought that it was a joke, but then he said, okay, if you want us to do that, if you want me to do that, we'll do it for $1 million. And Diddy agreed. Keefe D is saying this to authorities in 2023, okay? But obviously everything that happened in 1996. So Keefe D, along with Diddy, come up with this plan on how they're going to get rid of Tupac. Then that night, Tupac just so happens to get into a fight with Keefe D's nephew, Orlando Anderson, at the hotel, and in Keefe D's head, it only makes him want to go through with the plan even more so because Tupac just went after his nephew. Then they all get into their cars, Suge and Tupac in their car, Keefe D and Anderson in their car, driving around looking for Tupac because they knew the general direction they were driving in. They knew that they were going to that club. Suge and Tupac get pulled over for playing their music too loud. The car full of girls pulls up right next to them. One of the girls yells out, Tupac. Keefe D and Anderson then hear that. They see Tupac and Suge in the car, drive up to it, and fire at it. Keefe D says that Suge Knight saw him. He says that they made eye contact and that Suge would have recognized him because the two of them have known each other ever since they were kids. So according to him, Suge Knight saw him in the car. Yet we know that he never snitched. He never told authorities what he saw that night, saying, quote, I'm not going to snitch on anyone. I would never snitch on anyone because I ain't no snitch, end quote. So according to Keefe D, they got rid of Tupac. Diddy failed to pay them the $1 million they agreed on. Allegedly, they only got $500,000 because they only got rid of Tupac, not Tupac and Suge. But because they never got paid the full amount, it only made it easier for him to tell the truth because he is now angry about the fact that they got the job done, yet they never saw the $1 million. July 2024, Eminem, the one and only, calls Sean Diddy Combs out again in one of his songs, but this time he also mentions Keefe D, writing, I'm like an RAPER, got so many essays, wait, he didn't just spell the word rapper and leave out a P, did he? RIP, rest in peace, Biggie and Pac, both of y'all should be living, but I ain't trying to beef with him cause he might put a hit on me like Keefe D get him. Biggie Smalls, Diddy's friend and a huge artist signed with Bad Boy Entertainment, Diddy's record label, was killed 6 months after Tupac, almost in the exact same way. While he was in the car, stopped at a red light when a car drove up next to his and fired. Much like Tupac, Biggie was rushed to the hospital and then passed away. He was only 24 years old. Tupac and Biggie killed in eerily similar ways within 6 months of each other, both men tied to Sean Diddy Combs in one way or another. You have Keefe D arrested and claiming that he was involved, but that Diddy told him to do it. And then you have Eminem in a song saying that he's not going to mess with Diddy because he, quote, might put a hit on me like Keefe D get him, end quote. October 2024, a woman called Ashley Parham files a lawsuit against Sean Diddy Combs, his right-hand woman, and chief of staff, Christina Quorum, a man called Shane Pierce, 3 John Does, and 1 Jane Doe. In her lawsuit, Ashley states that she met Shane Pierce at a bar in 2018. At said bar, Shane allegedly FaceTimed Sean Diddy Combs, trying to flex that he knew a celebrity. Ashley wasn't impressed, and on the call she said something regarding the fact that she doesn't really like Diddy, and she never has because she's always believed that Diddy was the person responsible for Tupac's death. Diddy hears that on FaceTime and tells Ashley that she would pay for what she said regarding Tupac. The following month, allegedly, Shane Pierce lures Ashley to his house. When she gets there, Sean Diddy Combs, Christina Quorum, and the 4 others show up and do unspeakable things to Ashley. Truly unspeakable. There was a trigger warning written on top of the lawsuit when describing what happened. It was so terrible. Whatever you're thinking, times it by a million. And Diddy allegedly made it clear to Ashley that they were doing what they were doing to her because of what she said on the FaceTime call a month earlier, blaming him for Tupac's death. When that happened in 2018, Ashley reported it to authorities, yet nothing was done. But people online speculate that because Diddy did the terrible things that he did to Ashley solely for the reason that she made that comment about Tupac, for a lot of people, when that came out before everything with Keefe D came out, that was reason enough to confirm that Diddy was in fact the person person responsible for killing Tupac. Keefe trial for the murder of Tupac Shakur has been postponed and is currently set for February of 2026. Does your head hurt? Because mine does. That is all I have. Again, with the whole death of Tupac, there's so many different things being said about this online, so I just wanted to kind of gather all the information, put it into one video to hopefully make it easier for you guys to understand. I know it's hard to keep track of everything going on, but that's my best attempt at putting all of this information in one place for you guys to be able to understand. That is all I have for today's video. I'm gonna run to the comment section as soon as I post this because what is going on? Anyway, hope you guys are having the best day. If not, go do something to make it the best day. Make somebody happy, and I will see you in my next video. Massive kiss on the forehead to every single one of you.
Stop playing with Ouija boards, and stories like this will not happen anymore. Danica and her sister are home alone one night. Now, their mom, father, and sister went away for 4 days and 2 nights, so they're completely alone for 4 days and 2 nights. So Danica and her sister decide that they're going to watch TV, and they want to watch old home videos because their grandmother had just passed away and they really missed her, and they wanted to watch family videos with her grandmother in them. So they sit down on the couch and they're watching these family videos. Well, Casey was really close with her grandmother, and at some point, Casey just was feeling really nostalgic. And she's like, listen, I really miss Nan. I really want to talk to her. Is there any way that I could talk to her again? Because I just can't take this right now. Now, Danica knows about a Ouija board that they have in their house. It is their mother's. Their mother has used it before. So she decides that she's going to tell her sister that they have a Ouija board in the house. Well, as soon as Danica tells her this, Casey is like, oh my God, we need to use it right now. If there's any way that I can talk to Nan, I want to talk to her right now. Go get the Ouija board. Danica in her head is just thinking, it's just a Ouija board. This is not going to work. This is fake. If this makes her feel better, I'll just go get the Ouija board. So she goes and she grabs the Ouija board. Terrible idea. So the first thing that happens is they get on the Ouija board and they ask a question, and immediately it goes to hi. It's important to note that it was their grandmother's birthday that day, and so the first thing that they ask, instead of asking like, is this my grandmother, they say, what day is it today? Ouija spells out my birthday. So they start talking to the Ouija board thinking that they're talking to their grandmother, and they're asking it questions, and finally Casey decides that she's going to ask it one important question. How old was I when you started looking out for me? And the Ouija board slowly spells out, I was never looking out for you. I hate you. Now, this was obviously a very weird response because Casey and her grandmother were two peas in a pod. They absolutely loved each other. Well, this obviously really upsets Casey, and she gets angry and she just slams the board shut without saying goodbye. Well, Danica's like, that sucks, but she doesn't really think anything of it. So they decide that they're gonna go do something else. Well, about an hour passes of them just chilling. And this is when weird things start happening. They're sitting on the couch when all of a sudden the lights start to flicker above them. Well, they're both looking up at the lights like, what the hell is going on? While they're just flickering, and then they hear this BAM! And the door just slams shut in the other room. So Danica's like, I have to go check and see what that was. So Danica gets up and Casey follows her, and they're walking into the hallway, and Danica is in front of Casey, and Danica suddenly hears this smack, like something had hit the floor. So she turns around and she sees that Casey is lying on the ground. Casey had been shoved to the ground. So Danica's like, oh my God, are you okay? And she walks over to her and she goes to like help her up, and suddenly Casey's head just goes like that, and she cannot get her up. Now, Danica cannot get Casey off of the ground because something has her by her hair and it is just tugging on it. Finally, after a couple of minutes of this, she finally gets her up off of the ground, and they're terrified at this point. So they just go into a different room and they just turn on all the lights in the house, and they're just sitting there until 4 o'clock in the morning when they finally decide that they're going to go to bed. So they go up the stairs and they go into the room and go to bed, and the Ouija board is back open on the floor exactly where it was before, like they had been playing it and never shut it in the first place. So at this point, Danica is like, F this, I am going to burn this thing. So she takes the Ouija board outside and she goes to light it on fire. It will not burn. She then goes and grabs deodorant. I'm not sure why she did this. I don't know if deodorant is flammable, but she tries to light it on fire, and only the sides of the board will light on fire, nothing else. She then goes to get lighter fluid and she sets it on fire and it burns to ashes. Well, while she's doing this, Casey's actually inside, and so she finishes with the Ouija board and she goes inside to check on Casey. She can't find her anywhere. So looks all over the house, she cannot find her. Then she just has this feeling to go and look in the front yard, and she sees Casey standing in the middle of the road just staring at this car whose lights are like shining in her eyes. The car is right in front of her. Apparently the car had almost hit her because she just went straight out into the middle of the road, and the driver got out of the car and is trying to talk to Casey, but Casey is unresponsive. So Danica walks over there and And as soon as Danica gets to where Casey is, Casey just snaps out of it and looks at Danica and has no idea what's going on. At this point, Danica just kind of thanks the driver and is like, sorry, like, didn't really know what to tell them. They go back inside and Danica's like, I'm just gonna watch you until you fall asleep. So that's exactly what she does. She waits till Casey falls asleep and then she goes to bed. Now, the weird thing about this is that Danica said that ever since this happened, Casey has been acting super strange and she does not know what is going on, but she is absolutely not herself. Now, she kind of just ends the story abruptly there, but I have so many questions. Like, how is she acting weird? What is going on now? And has anything happened afterwards? And what did you, like, the Ouija board is gone. What did you tell your mom about the Ouija board? Is your mom and dad experience anything else? Is your little sister experiencing anything else? Do they think that she's acting weird? Do they know about it? Like, so many questions. So I guess my biggest question for you guys is, what do you think this was? It clearly was not her grandmother. I don't think her grandmother would do what was happening in this story, any of it. She said that she was very close to her grandmother. It's been solidified that they were close and that she was not a bad person. So what happened here? The one more question that I guess I would have you guys ever experienced anything paranormal prior to this? Or was this the first time you had ever experienced anything paranormal? But with that being said, just drop all your thoughts, opinions, and suggestions down below. But as always, please be respectful.
One of my story times, I said, now we all know about Moldavite. Turns out a lot of people don't know about Moldavite. And if you're thinking about getting Moldavite, maybe listen to this story first. I am back with another spooky story. We're gonna call the person who submitted the story Smeralda. I feel like using my friends' names today. Now, Smeralda says that this was just punishment for being stupid. So last year, she bought Moldavite. She didn't believe in crystals like that, but everywhere she looked, people were saying that it forces transformation. Now, at the time, this was going viral, and a lot of people were talking about what Moldavite was doing for them. People were saying that it removes what's not aligned, it shifts your entire life. Smeralda was in a really dark place. Wrong job, wrong apartment, wrong man. And something in her wanted change. Fast. One day, a man outside was selling crystals. She saw it and thought it was meant to be. So she decided to buy herself a tiny little piece. She says that day, her life broke open. That night, she had a dream, a terrible one. It was just her waking up within different layers of nightmare. This one, she thought she escaped one nightmare. She was back in another horrific nightmare. She was either being chased or she saw that her house was burning down. Her dreams just became very apocalyptic. And she said that night when she woke up from that dream, a dream that felt like it went on for way too long, by the way. Now, she wore the Moldavite as a ring. So when she woke up, she said she should have thrown it out right then and there. But she didn't want to block her blessings, you know? She said within a week of having Moldavite, she lost her job because they restructured the team. Her boyfriend of 3 years admitted that he'd been cheating on her with someone that he met online. Her landlord decided that he randomly needed the apartment back for a family emergency, and she was given 30 days to leave. And Smeralda just kept telling herself, Moldavite removes what's not meant for me. But it genuinely didn't feel like a cleansing. It felt very violent. Like everything was being ripped away from her. And way too fast at that for her to even process what's going on. She says 2 weeks later, she's driving around. Her car starts breaking down on the road. The car that was driving behind her rams into her, sending her car forward, hitting a pole. There goes the car. The car was totaled, but she was fine, thank God. Now, Smeralda says because her life has been upside down for so long, at this point, she forgot about the Moldavite on her hand. But this is the night that everything would come to a head. She says one night, as she's sitting there, she's thinking about how her life has been going for the past 2 weeks and became so angry and just started throwing things. And the angrier she got, she notices that her finger starts getting hot. She looks down and it was the finger that had on the Moldavite. That's when she's like, oh shit, this bitch ass crystal. In that moment, it really dawns on her. Let me just get rid of this crystal. Whether it's a superstition or not, she had lost enough to stick it out. At this point, she doesn't know what other blessings that she could get that would make up for all this trauma. All this trauma caused within the time span of 2 weeks, by the way. So yeah, maybe think about it before you buy Moldavite. It definitely shouldn't be your first crystal because Moldavite pretty much accelerates any energy that's already there. If you're not good at protecting yourself energetically, if negative energy gets to you, Moldavite is going to reflect that. If you're also someone who does not do a lot of shadow work, Moldavite will also exploit that. So a lot of your trauma will also come up. I wouldn't say don't get it. I would more so say let it not be your first crystal. I almost got Moldavite once, you know, because I'm dark like that. But I'm Haitian. I don't need any of that. Life fucks me up for fun, so I don't need a rock. Anyway, let me know. Would you get Moldavite from your favorite Haitian homegirl?
This story was submitted by a man that says that when he was working as a garbage collector, he came across a large bag of money. When he opened it, he realized that there was about 1,000,000 pesos in there, which is equivalent to like $50,000. Javier was working as a garbage collector in Mexico City back in the early 2000s. He was struggling financially. Him and his wife had just gotten married and they were expecting a baby. When he was on his regular route, he came across this one bag that when he went to pick up and throw it into like the compressor, the bag ripped open a little bit. When he looked in, he saw that there were bills, like straight up money in there. He opened it more and saw that it was completely filled. He went ahead and took it and hid it so like his co-workers wouldn't see it, and took it home. The minute he took it home, he showed it to his wife. They opened it, they counted it. There was about 50,000 US dollars in there, which to them was life-changing because they were struggling financially. They could barely afford anything. To them, this was like a blessing. Like all their prayers had been answered, so they were completely thankful. That night, both of them could barely sleep because they were so excited about all the possibilities and all of the things they were going to be able to do with this money. Things quickly changed the next day when Javier had to get up and go to work, leaving his wife Marisol at home by herself. Marisol says that when she was sleeping, she woke up hearing footsteps in the kitchen. When she went out there, she didn't see anybody. At first, she thought that maybe Javier had come back home, but no one was there, so she decided to lay back down. Then she gets up a second time because she hears what sounds like dishes being thrown around and like silverware being moved. Really thinking that somebody broke in, she went back out there and still complete silence. Then she looks out into the living room and sees this very dark figure like walking across, which completely freaked her out so much that she decided to sit on the porch and wait until Javier got home. Now, once Javier got home, things only got worse. That night, neither one of them could barely sleep. They kept hearing footsteps, they kept hearing voices. At one point, they heard a woman screaming in the house, like they really thought it was an actual woman that was in the house. As Marisol finally like fell asleep for a little bit, she woke up feeling like somebody was stroking her hair. Thinking it was Javier, she kind of looked over and saw that it was an old woman sitting next to her. The woman looked like her face looked completely like deformed, and she was just sitting there like watching her. They couldn't take it anymore and decided that they were both gonna just pack up and go stay with Marisol's mom, but the activity just followed them. Now, not only they were being haunted, Marisol's mom was also hearing things and feeling things. In like broad daylight, she would have things coming up to her and like whispering in her ear. This continued on for a week. It was like whatever was taunting them was something that was attached to the money. Then one day, Javier's at work on his regular route once again when this old man approaches him. The man looked extremely tired. His eyes were red and like sunken in. He goes up to Javier and says, "I saw you from my window. I saw when you grabbed the bag of money. That money is cursed. That money came from a pact, a satanic pact that I made in order to become rich and wealthy, but it ended up destroying my life so much so that the man took all of the money, put it in a bag of like trash, and went to throw it away. Never in a million years did he ever think that someone else would pick it up." He then told Javier that the only way to get rid of the curse that he had put upon himself and his family was to get rid of the money. That very same day when Javier got home, he took the bag of money, took it out back, and he burned it. Every last bill. From that point forward, all of the activity completely stopped. They were even able to move back home and everything was fine. Javier says that even though they continued to struggle financially, that the peace, the overwhelming peace that they felt after getting rid of that money was worth it all. From that day, he swore up and down that he would never again pick anything up from the trash can. I just want to say that I was driving home today and I saw like this person had all of these like Christmas decorations on the side of the road that they were like giving away. And I wanted to stop so badly to kind of look through it and grab some stuff, but it's honestly just not even worth it. It's not worth it.
In 1990, twin sisters Danette and Jeanette Millbrook completely disappeared in broad daylight. It was March 18, 1990, and the two girls were just a couple weeks away from celebrating their sweet 16. Now, this day in question happened to be on a Sunday, and on Sundays, the family always went to church. After church, the girls and their mother went back home in order to have lunch with the rest of the family. However, their mother did send off the two girls to pick up a order that she had pre-made at Church's Chicken. Now keep in mind, this was in 1990. It was a different time. Kids had a lot more independence and they were able to go walk around the city, run errands with a lot more confidence from their parents. Anyhow, the twins went off, they picked up the family lunch and made it back home. However, when they got home, they told their mother something very unsettling. They told their mother that a white van had made made them extremely uncomfortable because it had been following them. Although this was acknowledged, it wasn't a full-on concern at this point. After all, the two girls made it back home, they were safe, and they just went on with their day. Now, during lunch, the two girls told their mother that they needed bus fare for the week. And according to the twins' younger sister named Shanta, she overheard their mother tell the two girls to go ask their father for some money. And so after lunch, the two girls went off to their godfather's house, which was just a few minutes away by foot. When they got to his home, he of course gave the two girls some bus money for the week, but he also gave them a little bit extra in order for them to go buy themselves some snacks or treats. But then on their walk home from their godfather's house, the two girls started exhibiting some strange behavior that other family members did not fully recognize. On their way home, they stopped at two family homes asking if somebody could accompany them on their walk back home. Their first stop was at their cousin's house. However, the mother of their cousin told them that she could not go with them because this meant that then she would have to walk back home by herself. They then stopped at their older sister's house and she declined. She had other things to do. But then the day kept passing and the twins did not arrive home from what was supposed to be a short visit to their godfather's home. And later that evening, their mother began calling everyone around town that she knew, asking if they had seen her twins. Eventually, she called a local gas station called the Pump and Shop Stop because it was an area where the family would often frequent. Now, the attendant that the mother spoke to was familiar with the family. She did know the sisters, and when she spoke to the mother, she said that she did see the two girls enter the gas station around 4:30 p.m. that day. But because she was busy with other clients, she didn't realize which direction the two had gone in. It wasn't until later that evening that their mother finally called the authorities to report her daughters as missing. But unfortunately, she was met with hesitation. She was told that she needed to wait at least 24 hours before filing a missing persons report. And so reluctantly, she ended up waiting the 24 hours and then called again the following day. And that was when the two girls were officially reported as missing. But as you can assume, there was a huge lack of effort from the authorities in this case. There was barely any sort of investigation. Although an authority did go to the family home to collect some information, it was said that they did not search the neighborhood. They didn't really interview people. It just seemed to the family like they did not care. And at one point, they even told the family that these two girls were just likely runaways. A few years went by, and in 1993, authorities told their mother that at this point, the girls would be 17, turning 18, and at this point, there was nothing the authorities could do to make the girls come back. Essentially, just telling the family that it is what it is. If they want to come back, they will. And we would later find out that the original investigator then claimed that a juvenile case officer had told them that the girls had actually been found and placed into the foster care system, which resulted from them being removed from the database of missing children. And then later on, we would also find out that at the beginning, because the case was so poorly handled, they couldn't even bother to spell their names correctly, which resulted in even further confusion as time went on. And as for the foster care situation, it turned out that it was actually a relative of the family that had children in the system that was actually reported as being in foster care, not the actual twins. It wasn't until 2013 that the case was finally reopened, with the authorities admitting that the case had been grossly mishandled. And they did end up meeting with the family in 2017. I'm not sure why it took 4 years for them to go back and meet with the family, but they did. They collected DNA samples and conducted further interviews. And in 2023, an interview was done with one of the officers on the case by Dateline, and all they could say is that they were not going to comment on the case, but that they were always open to looking into new information and any leads. So what actually happened to these two young girls? Well, the main theory is that they were abducted. And this was the person that people were looking at the most. His name was Joseph Patrick Washington. And that was because he was living in the same neighborhood as the girls at the time of their disappearance. And in 1995, he was sentenced to 17 consecutive life sentences for having abducted and SAing 5 women. But unfortunately, he passed away in 1999, which resulted in the investigation into him coming to a complete standstill. And as of now, we have no new information on what happened to Danette or Jeanette Millbrook. So if you have any information, contact this number here.
Hello and welcome back to a series of spooky stories, The Haunted Tea Spill, featuring the necklace that helped us sponsor several angels off of the angel tree from a nursing home. It's cute and cheap, which we love, and it comes in a 2-pack, but this is the only one that I'm wearing today. Please listen before I start the story. I got a comment on one of my other videos saying that this woman has a daughter who is developmentally delayed, but she is not able to get on the angel tree because of her age. So I had her make a wish list, and I decided to highlight that link on my profile so nobody would get confused with the link tree and all that other jazz. So if you want to help, her wish list is on my profile. The list is really small and the stuff on it is very reasonably priced. So if you can help, that would be wonderful. Now on to the story. Demonic North Texas house. Off to a great start. Back when I was about 18 years old, my friend had asked me to care for her dad's dog so she could hang out with her boyfriend. I said yes because even though her dad's house had always made me a bit uncomfortable and I knew it was haunted, I wanted to let her have some time with her boyfriend. What a good friend. The one and the only night I spent there by myself actually had me running from the house. For context, when walking into the front of the house, there was a grand staircase of types on the right side of the door and a carpeted catwalk that connected the staircase to the second floor where all of the bedrooms were. Anyway, before I went to bed, things had felt as normal as they could in that house. I had felt something watching me, but this was not my first experience with ghosts, so I just ignored them and went on about my business. I'll never get used to it. I took a shower and got into bed where I had a dream that I was back in the bathroom where a little girl appeared. She told me, "You have to go. He doesn't like you here. You have to go." Get the fuck out right now. If you didn't get the fuck out right then and there, why? I kind of brushed it off until I walked out of the bathroom with the little girl, asking her, "Who doesn't like me here?" She never got the chance to answer. She was dragged screaming across the catwalk, clawing at the carpet to try and get traction. I woke up shortly after she had been dragged to the stairs to my friend's dog, who was generally very friendly, growling and barking at the bedroom door. Still thinking it was a weird dream, I went to the bathroom and watched as shampoo bottles were dropping to the floor, seemingly for no reason. Oh, there was a reason. There was a reason, and they tried to tell you. You know? They did. They tried to tell you. Remember that catwalk that I mentioned was carpeted? Well, in my alarm at the shampoo bottles falling to the ground, I walked out there to see if maybe that dream was not so much a dream. What I saw had me running out of the house. Claw marks, exactly like what I had dreamt, were deeply dug into the carpet, being dragged to the stairs. When I say I've never run out of a house so fast, I called my friend as I ran out of the house and could feel something dark watching me from the front door of the house. I never went back by myself after that. You shouldn't have went back, period. When I spoke with my friend's mom about it, she told me that the house had always had a bad feeling about it, even right after they had built it. They built that bitch, and it was like that. Hell nah. They would smell cigarette smoke even though none of them smoked. Things would be moved or go missing. The dogs would refuse to go upstairs for extended periods of time, etc. So based on my experience and what my friend's mom had to say about it, I'm 100% positive that the house was haunted by a very unfriendly ghost. Well, no shit. Wow. You're observant. Anyway, you should have left. You should have heeded the warning. And the fact that you went back is crazy. But I digress. Rate it on a scale of 1 to 10 in the comments, or don't. If you want to put in your 2 cents, you can do that. That's up to you, you know? Your prerogative. If you have a story of your own that you want to submit, you can't submit it on the link tree in my profile just yet because of that link to that wish list for the lady. So you're just going to have to wait until that list is gone. You know what I mean? Or you can DM me. You could do that too. Whatever you want to do. You know what I mean? I'll see you all the next episode. Stay spooky, friends.
You can't make this stuff up. Might have known the story of real-life boogeyman.
This is one of the darkest medical disasters in history. This is the origin story of the first electric device for women. A lot of people don't know how, laughably ridiculous the history is. Our story takes place during the 1800s in the Victorian era. And there was a plague amongst all of the Victorian women that doctors called hysteria. What was the cause, you ask? The cause of hysteria was thought to be a woman's womb. It comes from the Greek word hystera, meaning uterus. Hysteria is also referred to as the wandering womb disease because doctors believed the womb was a rogue organ that could wander around the body. bumping into things and causing all kinds of chaos. Symptoms include anxiety, irritability, scoliosis, and having opinions. But it was basically a blanket medical term for women who behaved in a way that was deemed unacceptable by society. And this was considered a legitimate medical condition until the 1950s. So how was hysteria treated? Now this is where the story gets really good. There are a few treatments for hysteria, including getting married, having babies, being institutionalized, but standard practice and a very popular treatment option was manual stimulation by the doctor until the woman reached relief. The idea was that it would calm the womb down and return it to its rightful place in the body. I'm not joking. Look all of this up. It's real. So the demand for this treatment was so high because there were so many hysterical women that the men were having a hard time keeping up because their hands were literally starting to cramp up. So, in true Industrial Revolution spirit, someone invented a machine to make the process faster and easier for the doctors. And just like that, the first electromechanical device for women was born. So it started as a medical treatment. It was a total accident that women happened to enjoy it, because that was not the intent. And fast forward to now, it's actually considered a form of self-care. It's also a reminder that learning what feels safe, what feels good, is kind of a quiet rebellion against centuries of medical misinformation. In the spirit of that, I want to empower each and every one of you to connect more with yourself. That's why I'm partnering with Bellesa for this video. Bellesa really reclaims that story, and they don't label women's needs as symptoms, they celebrate them. So everyone who signs up either gets a free toy or a free gift card. You just have to go to the link in my bio and claim your free gift. Because it turns out that knowledge of your own body really is power.
Weird spooky Christmas story. The man by his Christmas tree. So this person says his earliest memory is from Christmas when he was about 3 or 4 years old. It wasn't until years later that he realized that his earliest memory was actually impossible. So his whole family was gathered for a Christmas party at his house. All the adults were in the kitchen laughing, getting food, talking, but he was in the living room by the Christmas tree. From where he stood, he could see straight into the kitchen. He said there were plenty of adults around, plenty of eyes to watch him, anyone that could check on him at any moment. He said he wasn't hidden or isolated or anything like that. And he wasn't alone. He said standing next to the Christmas tree was an older man. He had glasses, black pants, and a red short-sleeved shirt. At that age, he didn't know who he was, but he smiled at him and was gently talking to him, and even picked him up and held him for a moment. It was calm and warm. Just a sweet, harmless interaction. Just one of those tiny childhood memories that sticks with you forever. So fast forward when he's about 16 years old. He said he was talking with his dad and they were reminiscing about their very first memories. And then he mentioned his memory about the man that he didn't know who was standing next to him by the Christmas tree. His dad asked who he was talking about. So he pointed to a photo on the wall. And he was like, "It's that guy." He's like, "I remember him holding me right by the tree. He was even wearing those exact clothes." His dad went silent. He asked him again, "Are you absolutely sure?" He said, "Yeah, completely sure." So that's when his dad told him the truth. That's impossible. Because he unalived before you were born. That's your great-grandfather, who you are named after. The room went silent, because he remembered the encounter perfectly. The clothes, the smile, the way he held him, a memory that shouldn't exist, but does. And all these years later, he still thinks of that moment. And who or what really stood by that Christmas tree with him that night. Let me know in the comments what you guys think, and if you have a similar story, send it my way.
She lured a man to a love hotel where she would tie him up and then chop off his head. She then took this man's dismembered head home to her parents, who thought that it was amazing. Honestly, this is one of the most craziest cases. I'm True Crime Caitlin, and this is the murder of Hitoshi Ura. Runa Tamura from the outside appeared to be a very shy, quiet girl. She was very reserved and would spend a lot of time at home with her parents, Hiroko and Osamu. Runa struggled quite heavily in school. She would drop out when she was only 15 years old, and she told her father, Osamu, who was a psychiatrist, that she couldn't concentrate because all of the words on the
the pages would get off the page and dance, and she would get dizzy when she tried to focus. Despite the very timid outward appearance, on the inside the walls of her own home, Runa was completely different. If anything, she was the dominant one. She treated both of her parents horribly. They had raised her never hearing the word no. She always got what she wanted. What she said went, and she was just a brat, and not even the good kind. Hiroko and Osamu were like Runa's slaves. Osamu was like her personal chauffeur driver. Even if he was busy doing something, if she wanted to lift somewhere, he had to stop whatever he was doing to get up and drive her wherever she wanted to go. Their house was completely cluttered with all of Runa's things, and so Osamu was actually forced to work from an internet cafe because she refused to get rid of stuff and he had nowhere to work. If the father and daughter got into an argument or Osamu had upset Runa for whatever reason, she would kick him out of the house, and so it wasn't uncommon for Osamu to sleep in his car. Hiroko was very submissive to her daughter as well. She had to refer to Runa as young lady and speak to her in a polite, proper manner at all times, as if she was like a member of staff or something. Runa would actually force her own mother to sign a contract stating that she was Runa's slave. And Hiroko did it. She kept on giving Runa her own way, jumping to her beck and call. If Runa said jump, Hiroko said how high. In May 2023, 29-year-old Runa was attending a closing party within a club in the red light district of Sapporo City, Japan. While here, she would meet for the first time 62-year-old Hitoshi Ura, and the two really seemed to hit it off. They spent all night long dancing together, they were chatting, they were laughing, and they even started hugging and kissing. That night, the two would check into what they called a love hotel and spent the entire night being intimate. One of the final times that they were intimate, Hitoshi did not use protection like he promised Runa that he had. When she realised what he had done, she felt disgusted, violated, used and betrayed, and above everything, she felt ferocious anger. She would detail in her daily diary exactly what had happened, and also wrote that she was going to deal with it. She was going to get revenge. On the 1st of July 2023, Runa arranged with Hitoshi to meet up at a love hotel. CCTV would capture both of them walking in, but only Runa walking out hours later, clutching a black suitcase. Once the two got inside of their room, Runa would reveal that she was wearing a very tight-fitting black dominatrix-style outfit. She then lured Hiroshi into the bathroom of their room. She sat him down somewhere, blindfolded him, put his hands behind his back and restrained him with handcuffs. Runa then set up a video recorder and focused it on Hiroshi. She was about to film the entire thing. She would creep up behind him and told him, quote, "The thing you need to reflect on most is breaking your promise to me." After whispering this to Hiroshi, she then plunged a knife into his neck. Runa would go on to repeatedly stab Hiroshi over and over until she killed him. Once he was dead, using a saw, she would then decapitate him and partially dismember him. After all of this, she would get herself cleaned up and then left Hiroshi's body there for the cleaner to find the next day. When the cleaner checked into the room, ready to go in and clean it because the people who were in the room should have already left, she would make her way to the bathroom where she would discover the blood-soaked, traumatizing scene. Just imagine that for a second, opening up a door to reveal a blood-soaked room and lay on the floor is a dismembered, headless corpse. Police were immediately contacted, and quite quickly, thanks to CCTV alongside some other things, they were able to zone in as Ruma Taruna being their number one suspect. Officers arrived at the family home around about 3 weeks later, and in the family's shared bathroom, they would discover the decapitated head of Hiroshi, and the condition that they found it in is absolutely barbaric. His skin had been sliced off with razor blades and his eyes had been gouged out, both of which were done by Runa. After committing the murder inside of the Love Hotel, she then walked out of the hotel and jumped straight into her dad's car, who had actually been sat outside God knows how long, waiting for her. When they arrived home, Runa presented Hiroshi's head to her mother Hiroko, who said, Wow, that's amazing! And disgustingly, Hiroko would actually record Runa as she mutilated Hiroshi's head. Runa, Hiroko, and Osamu were all arrested in connection with the murder. Both of the parents would go to trial for basically aiding and abetting, and they would both receive suspended sentences. They were both in their 60s at this point. During their trials, we would learn that Osamu was actually the one who went out and bought some of the murder kit, including the black suitcase, a mask, and the sword that was used to dismember Hiroshi. He had also googled some sketchy things just before the murder, such as can bleach remove fingerprints. The prosecution would state that they believed that Runa was inspired by the horror movie Terrifier, which is a movie that she had rented only days before committing the murder. They came to this conclusion because of the video recording that she had taken. Apparently, this video recording was like for like for one of the scenes inside of the movie. Chillingly, it also came out that just days before the murder, Runa practiced what she was going to do on her own father. So she sat him down, she blindfolded him, and then she handcuffed him, and then did whatever to practice what she was going to do. When I learned that, I honestly couldn't get over it, because Osamu would later say that he had no idea that the murder was going to take place, yet he was allowing his daughter to practice this on him. Runa Tamura has been charged with the murder of Hiroshi Ura. Her trial is still yet to take place.
Saltaire Sally finally has her name, but the mystery of who killed her still remains. This is the case of Nicole Bakalis. Nicole Bakalis was born on August 23rd, 1980, and she was born in Washington State. Nikki was always a very creative, free-spirited young woman. She was artistic. She loved writing poetry. She loved to paint. Her brother James would say that she was his best friend growing up. And all she ever wanted as she got older was to have a family. She wanted to become a mother. And eventually, she did. Before this case occurred, she had started dating a man named Joel, and the two of them would end up having a little girl together. Her, Joel, and their baby then moved to Utah, but very shortly after that, unfortunately, Nicole lost custody of her daughter. Everything really wasn't going perfectly for her. She had a lot of struggles, a lot of hardships, a lack of continuing employment and instability in terms of like her living arrangements, and it devastated her. The last time anyone of her family really spoke to her was around March of 2000, and that was the last time anyone actually saw her as well. Because her family knew she was going through a really, really difficult time losing custody of her daughter, and the fact that she would kind of fall off the grid from time to time, they didn't really think much of it. It was kind of normal. And so they really wouldn't report her missing until about 2003. But what they didn't know was that in 2000, several months after she disappeared, she was actually found. It's just nobody knew it. But her boyfriend alleges that in March of 2000, on one day, the two of them got into an argument and Nicole left the apartment, and that was the last time he saw her. About 7 months later or so, near the Great Saltaire music venue, which is located a little bit away from Salt Lake City, this is the concert venue, in a field, a couple of duck hunters found skeletal remains. This is a detective standing in the general area where they were found. Unfortunately, while there was clothing with this individual and there was still long blonde hair connected to the remains, there still was no identification with this person, which was later determined to be a female. And because I didn't know her name at that time, she would be referred to as Saltaire Sally, and they would come up with a couple composite drawings of her. Unfortunately, these images, though, did not produce any leads. It wouldn't be until 2012 they used something called stable isotope ratio mass spectrometry. And based on the things they found in her hair, using this method, they determined that she was likely originally from the Pacific Northwest. When they were combing through missing persons report in Utah, and also in Washington, because that's where she originally lived, and that's where her family reported her missing from, they were able to finally piece it together. They then got DNA from family and confirmed that the remains were that of Nicole Bakalis. The police have not stated exactly how Nicole died, but they have stated pretty clearly that this is a homicide. The boyfriend, Joel, was tracked down after she was officially identified. He was questioned. He had been in prison at one point, not for anything like violence or anything like that. And they have not officially labeled him a suspect or really even a person of interest, more just potentially just a witness. But they don't have evidence to show he did anything to her. They don't have any evidence to show who did this to her at all. And so they are now relying on the public's help. Someone somewhere out there has got to know the truth about who murdered Nicole Bakalis. Perhaps that someone is you. If you have any information, please report that information to 801-743-7000. Her family deserves justice. So if you can help with that, please do.
My name is Jake and I'm from Canada. I have a story that I will always remember vividly to this day. Living in my childhood home was never scary or unsettling. My mum, single parent to 4 kids, always made it the most comfortable living experience she could. Always decorating for the seasons and occasions and just making it a solid upbringing.
That's very nice.
One autumn evening close to Halloween, a spontaneous lightning and thunderstorm hit us. Not too bad of one, but a late in the season one nonetheless. The power had gone out, so my mum gathered us all in the TV room to hang out, with candles burning. It was nice. I've always loved thunderstorms, so this was just another pleasant evening for me. Suddenly, a bolt of lightning flashed in our windows, and my little sister screamed and started to cry. She had to be about 9 or 10 at the time, and has never screamed or cried like that over a little bit of thunder. As the lightning lit up the stairwell, leading from the basement, my sister ended up turning to look in the exact spot she would see an elderly man walking up the stairs in his underwear. She told us this between her gasps and tears, and my mum, being who she was, told her that it wasn't that, and just started explaining how the flickering light and shadows can play tricks on the mind, and that especially with candles and glowing Halloween decor. After a while, she calmed down and the power came back on and we went to bed. My mum has also always been into the paranormal and sci-fi stuff. So when she said this, it was only to calm my sister down and not to freak out the 3 other younger kids. She told me later in life, as the paranormal is a huge connecting factor between us, that she ended up going to the bank the next day, and since it was a small town, she mentioned it to one of her bank teller friends. The bank teller was hesitant to mention this next thing, but I'm so glad that she did. She happened to know the family who lived in the home before us and was friends with the kids growing up. She told my mum that when she went over to her friend's house, my childhood home, her friend's dad would walk around the house in his underwear.
Oh. Well, do you know, it's kind of a relief to hear about a ghost that isn't in, like, Victorian
Completely agree.
garb.
That's why I pictured it. After my mum found this out, she got one of her more spiritual friends to come over and help her sage the house and protect it. Even though she knew the old man wasn't evil or violent, she still had 4 young kids and she didn't want to get scared. After that, nothing else notable happened in the house. That's my story. I hope you read it, let alone include it in a listener special. It was creepy, real, and a memory I'll always have. Thank you, Huns, for all the work you put into the pod. It really is special to me, and I love hearing the stories week by week. Have a lovely day. Jake from Ontario, Canada.
Ontario!
Who wants to play Find the Ghost with me? Don't know how I love to look for ghosts in historic homes, especially ones that are on the market. Found a good one. Let's see if you can find them, because there's a lot. Play along with me, find these ghosts. This is Green Gable. When you walk in, this is what you see. Immediately know there's a ghost there. Can you find it? Pause to look. It's right here. There's also one on the stairs. I'll show you in a minute. Everything in this house is original. Original floors, original light fixtures, the wavy windows, all the stuff. Can you find the ghost in this room? Pause to look. Plot twist, there's not one. This is what's known as a butler's pantry. Cool thing about this, you see these yellow things over there? They're bread warmers. They actually had 3 of them, which is impressive. Oh yeah, there's a ghost. You see it? Pause to look. Standing right here, but it gets better. Immediately, no. No. Oh, look at this kitchen. It's nice. Wait a minute. Do you see him? How about now? There's actually 2. Pause to look. 1, 2. Moving along. Another part of the kitchen. That's got to be like some kind of joke or something, right? But this one's not. Can you see him? How about now? Moving on. It gets worse. So remember this staircase? Getting anything here? Pause to look. Take it all in. Right in here. Maybe that's because. Can you see the ghost here? Please tell me you can see it. Pause to look. Look hard. Who the hell is this? Who is this? I'm over the top of it. Who the hell is that? Moving on, because it gets worse. Remember this scary ass doorway from earlier? It's actually this steep ass servant stairs. Can you imagine packing a tray of food up this? I would have been like, every day. A sneak peek of upstairs. I will say the upstairs is what nightmares are made of. You want to see the rest of it, let me know in the comments. If not, I'm not going to bother with it. Do with that info as you will. Oh, and this is the house, this is the listing, and all of the photos were taken by this person, place, or whatever right here. They're not my photos, I got them from this site. That's all.
Stop what you're doing right now and watch this video, because once you see this, you'll never touch a Ouija board again. You guys hear me preach all the time about the dangers of Ouija boards, spirit boards, reaching out to the other side through seances and things like that. What happened to this guy is the reason I say this, because I don't care that you can buy Ouija boards at Walmart. They're dangerous. It's not the board itself, it's the intent of what you're doing. Pray nothing like this ever happens to you. And I know this from experience because I have played in my younger years. Check this out. Let me know what you think in the comments.
If you are here, please let me know you are here by... Oh, it just moved a little bit. If you are here, please let me know you are here. Bro, you won't even believe this. Hold on. This is not even fake. Hold on. This just flew. The glass just came off too. And there's no strings on this or nothing. That is why you stay away from Ouija boards. I'm telling you right now, stay away. I learned my fucking lesson. Oh, hell fucking I gotta go. You guys don't fucking hear that? Oh, fuck!
My mom saw La Llorona in Mexico when she was 15. Someone sent these to my P.O. box. They're like kitten skeletons and they're made out of wood. How cool are these? Alright, so this story has been told by my mom a few times, and every single time I still get that creepy, eerie feeling that someone is watching me. My mom is from a small town in Mexico located in Zacatecas. When she was around 14, she had the habit of waking her mom up to go to the restroom since it was an older home and the restrooms were located outside. Oh, the experiences suck so bad. If you have gone to Mexico, you know the restrooms are like away from the house. They're almost like outhouses, and sometimes they just don't have any. You just have to go in the back of the house. TMI. Anyway, it's dark and scary every single time. My mom tells me that it was around 3 a.m. when she woke up and felt the need to use the restroom urgently. So she began calling out for her mom. After a while of her mom not responding, she began getting agitated and started screaming. At this point, my mom turns around and at the foot of her bed, she sees her mom standing there. She was wearing a white robe but had a very bleak expression on her face and both of her arms were extended. My mom said that she suddenly felt extremely cold and a huge sense of dread. She had never seen her mom wear a white robe. That's when she looked down and saw her mom's feet weren't touching the floor. At that point, she screamed and quickly threw the covers over her head. Her mom, wearing something completely different, runs in to find my mom shaking in her bed. Nobody believed my mom. Everyone told her it was a dream. That was until a few days later, there was a power outage. During this time, my mom and a few of her siblings, with her parents, all decided to sleep in the living room. Around the same time, at 3 a.m., they heard the same undeniable wails of La Llorona down their street. None of them slept that night. But it was a dream. You guys are all dreaming together. It wasn't La Llorona. After that day, we'd all be sleeping together every fucking night. That's for sure. What do you guys think?